Welcome to another exciting D&D video. Today we'll be talking about future products that will be released between the end of this year and sometime next year. Alright, thank you folks for tuning in. This is going to be another D&D video. Today we're going to be talking about the non-D&D 1 part of the big presentation that they put on the other day.
You mean the part that was like 2 minutes?
One part of this was literally like a minute and 10 seconds. So we don't have a lot to go on there. There is one part, though, that was a little lengthy, and that we can talk about somewhat.
Was it the part about Fizzman's Guide to Giants?
No, it's the Dragonlance part.
Oh. I was hoping for more information on Giants.
Well, we are apparently going to be getting more information on Giants.
Cool.
But we'll get to that in a moment.
If I'd known we were talking about this, I would have brought my Giant minis.
So...
unfortunately, we still have the Dragon minis out, folks.
Well, that's kind of relevant to what we're going to be talking about. So, the big news is that we are going to be, after a long while, we are returning to the Dragonlance setting.
He's pudgy.
Yeah. And this is going to be marked by a campaign book of some kind, a board game, and there's a new novel that we both and Brad all got copies of at Gen Con. I know I haven't had a chance to read it. I read the interior cover, and it sounds like it's an
As did I.
premise. But yeah, and that's written by the original authors, Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman.
Yep.
So for them, it's also a return because even though they wrote the main storybooks, they didn't write every single Dragonlance book. There's a lot of material that they did not write. So they actually had, in their little presentation at Gen Con, they talked about this. They've got a guy they call up and be like, hey, so we're going to do X. Like, anything
Lady.
you know there?
I do believe it's a lady.
Okay, I was a little late to the presentation, so I apologize if that's the case. So, for those of you who don't know, in incredibly brief form, where this is going to be taking place is during the original trilogy of novels, during an event called the War of the Lance. And this is like the big kickoff moment for the Dragonlance setting. At that point in time in their world, which is called Krynn, Krynn, this is, I believe, 300 years after the fall of Ishtar, which is basically where the forces of good became a little too uppity and demanded some things from the gods, and the gods decided to answer by hurtling a meteorite at Ishtar and then abandon the world. And so, like, clerics are non-existent at the beginning of this.
They didn't exactly get abandoned, did they?
Well,
they just lost track of the world.
Well, no, that's one of the later crises. This is they all took a hands-off approach. And so they stopped answering their clerics. Actually, they took their clerics with them because they knew what was coming. But they stopped answering everyone else's prayers. And so 300 years passes, assorted wars and whatnot. And then, out of nowhere, these creatures called draconians, which are hatched from dragon eggs, and you find out that they're stealing the dragon eggs of the good aligned dragons and using their magic to turn them into draconians. So, killing two birds with one stone here. And the whole idea there, from a meta standpoint, was they wanted a setting where orcs weren't the generic villains. So they created something else. And so the draconians are kind of cool. These are some of the more recent minis that involve them. But there's a Dragonlance set on the way, which will feature a whole lot more.
I would like to point out, folks, to me, those look a lot like Dragonborn.
Yes, these would be Dragonborn well before there was such a thing as Dragonborn. So
I just feel like pointing that out.
Except most of the Dragonborn don't have wings, right?
No, they don't.
So, yeah.
That is one big difference.
The Draconians all do, I believe. Now, given that we're moving into 5th edition and they're trying to update things, there are now stats for Draconians from the evil aligned dragons, the chromatics and the gem dragons. So they have literally tripled the number of potential draconians now, which is an interesting development. So fast forward to where the setting kind of begins. You have your group, the companions, and they get tangled up in all this. But essentially, the war is their setting's version of Tiamat, who's known as Takesis, and I'm probably mispronouncing that.
That's how I've always heard it pronounced.
Well, maybe I'm not. Who knows? Margaret Weiss would know. I should have asked her at Gen Con.
Should have got my book signed at Gen Con.
Yeah. So, she's essentially Tiamat, and Paladine is their version of Bahamut.
Yep.
And they're the two, main, Tiamat, or Takesis is the leader of the evil gods. Paladine's leader of the gods of light. I don't remember who the leader of the gods of neutrality are, but that's the kind of deal with Dragonlance. Is there are those
probably some guy that tells everybody to tell my wife I said hello.
Maybe there's a balancing act that occurs with Dragonlance. There's good, evil, and neutral, and they all have the same assortment of powers. And that's a major feature of the setting. So Takesis is trying to make a move to unbalance everything. She's empowering characters with her divine magic, knowing that the other gods aren't in on the scheme yet, so they don't have their own clerics to fight them yet. And that's where the main plot of the novels comes in, is to try to restore cleric magic and to rally to fight the dragon armies. And the armies are led by the Dragon High Lords, each of whom is a dragon rider. So they each have a dragon companion that they ride on the back of. I'm sure from the dragon's perspective, the human's the companion, but the
human's a pet.
But the humans...
Dragons are like cats.
But the humans are the generals for the army. So, it's kind of up to you how you want to interpret that. But Takesis seems to favor them in this equation. So that's the kind of the overview. And we'll do another video to really go into the ins and outs of the first two trilogies for Dragonlance. But anyway, so you've got various orders of knights. You have the dragon armies. You have the draconians, which are the foot soldiers for the dragon armies. You have assorted humans who fight for the dragon armies. And, like I said, you have the dragons. And the other part of the plot is them trying to awaken the good dragons to rally to fight. And along the way, you also have villains like Lord Soth, who's a Death Knight, which, in a somewhat lower magic setting like Dragonlance, a Death Knight's downright terrifying. Because, do they still have Power Word Kill in 5th edition?
I don't know.
Because I know up to 5th edition...
As being mostly a player, I do buy all the books as they're released, but I don't go looking at monster stats all the time.
I'll have to double check that one.
Like, there's certain ones I check when they're relevant for my characters' backstories. Otherwise, no.
But yeah, so essentially, at least up to 5th edition, and probably, I imagine there's no way that Lord Soth's not going to have this, even if they have to give it only to him. But yes, as a Death Knight, he has Power Word Kill, which is literally, he says die, and you probably do that.
If you have less than 100 hit points, you just turn to dust.
Yeah, it's not good. So,
only way to come back from that is a wish spell, I do believe.
Yeah, which is probably not a thing for Dragonlance.
Probably not.
So yes, even in, I think it's the second of the trilogies, one of the characters does note that a gentleman who can just point his finger at you and tell you to die, and you do so, has a distinct combat advantage. So, even the characters within the setting are aware that he can do this. This isn't just a random thing. So,
however, sort of limited because only one target.
Well, sure, but he uses it on a dragon and succeeds. So, if I'm recalling how the battle went correctly. And he's got a whole tragic backstory to him. He's actually a complex character. He shows up in Ravenloft at one point, which I think is where he finally kind of sees that, yeah, he's totally not good and should have tried to do something to correct his ways a long time ago, such that once he comes back to Dragonlance, one of the few characters to escape the mists, by the way, Takhisis makes another move in a later series of books and sends her emissary to get him to join, and he says, "Yeah, no, I'm done being evil." And so she kills him over it, like, for good. So, yeah. He does at least ultimately see the error of his ways and get taken out as a result. But his design is really cool, and if you want to see it, look for the alternate artwork for the campaign book. That's his helmet on the front, and his symbol is the black rose. It's on the back side. So yeah, he's really cool. Whole backstory. Got banshees and death knight and like skeletal knights and all kinds of stuff. It's great. Really is.
Sounds nice.
So,
how does this tie into the Dragonlance module coming up?
Well, he's on the cover, so I'm assuming he's in there with stats.
Yes, but I meant the rest of what you've been talking about.
Well, I just want to explain what Dragonlance is, because this could be a short video otherwise. So,
maybe a short video would have been good.
Yeah, maybe. So, anyway, so I'm assuming he's going to actually be a villain in the campaign because he's on the cover, and he's got a new miniature coming out, which also looks really cool.
It does.
Unfortunately, it's a promo, so let's see. I'll have to get a hold of one, but
Gen Con next year.
Maybe. That's how I got a hold of all of them for this year. So, the other item coming out, and this is related to the campaign, kind of, is there's going to be a board game, which is like a mass battle board game.
Dragonlance Risk.
Maybe.
It's going to be pretty much what it is.
I sincerely...
Except for D20s instead of D6s.
I sincerely hope not. I don't want to play Risk. I played it once. It took way too long. We never did resolve who won.
I like it.
Because neither of us realized that the winning strategy is just hide in Australia. Apparently.
I played the Lord of the Rings one. It was fun.
So, little BattleTech insight here.
Also, never use the house rule that when you win a combat, you can initiate another combat. You can chain reaction that, and you can make your dad and brother never want to play Risk with you again.
Yeah. So, little...
They've not played Risk with me since.
Yeah, I can't say I blame them. It's kind of like me and the Star Wars Trivial Pursuit I have. I've played it once, because I absolutely cleaned house. Their only hope was the category that involved things like, who was the sound technician during the Battle of Hoth?
Who was Mark Hamill's hair dresser in Return of the Jedi?
Yeah, you get to questions like that. But anyway, if I find it, we'll do a video on it sometime.
No, we won't.
I've got it somewhere.
No, we won't. No, we won't. No.
He's a naysayer. We will. So,
if they ask us to, if we get 50 people asking us to make that video, I'll make it. Yes.
So anyway, the mass battle game, the way they've made it sound, you have the option to use the game to play out a few of the battles in the campaign and have that affect the RPG campaign as you're playing through it. But it also acts as a standalone game. And to me, that's the aspect I really want to see how that works. Because if that works here, like if that actually smoothly works, then there's no reason you couldn't integrate that into any other setting.
Like BattleTech.
Well, I meant like the other D&D settings.
Oh.
Like for BattleTech, there's a whole other... it's above Alpha Strike. It's where you're using like little chits to represent like whole lances.
Is it Bravo Strike?
No, it's not Bravo Strike.
Sigma Strike?
No, it's not. It's nothing Strike. Like it's not. It's a whole other.
Sigma Bombardment?
No. Don't just stop. It's a whole other naming scheme.
Sigma Control?
Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, and they're also going to be apparently updating or something to the old Succession Wars game from the looks of things. So, and there you got like single miniatures represent like whole commands.
All right, back on the D&D stuff.
Well, you're the one that wanted to go down the BattleTech path, so here we are.
We're not just a BattleTech channel.
That's right.
We just sprinkle it in with everything.
Yeah. Got Gotta give the people what they want. So, we should have some battle mechs out here, I guess. So, anyway, that to me, that's the aspect I want to see how the integration works. Also, I want to see the campaign book itself. Even though I'm not overly inclined to ever try to run a campaign in Dragonlance, because I feel that every single major thing is handled in the novels by the big characters. And unlike the Realms, maybe I haven't read enough of the novels. It just doesn't feel like there's enough else going on in the setting that I can be like, okay, well, that's all right that Elminster's saving the day over there because we're over here. Kryn feels very much like, okay, the places the characters went, that's what exists. And again, that could be because I haven't read the other novels. So that could just be a failing on my part. But that's what I feel as far as the setting.
I want to get the books and all to see, how it works. You do get the whole, here's where the heroes are, but there's always stuff going on that the heroes aren't part of. You could, Lord of the Rings, for example. The heroes get split up and all, but they're not really involved in the southern part of the world where Sauron's recruiting the Black Fleet, I think it is.
Yeah. But Lord of the Rings only needs to focus on one character, the hero.
Sam.
Sam.
Yes, if you guys did not know this, Sam is the real hero of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I joke about that, like it's Sam and Frodo. Frodo did go 99% of the way there. Sam was there to carry in the last few feet, but Frodo did his part too.
So did Smeagol.
Yeah, I guess.
Hey, it didn't get into the lava without Smeagol.
I know, but that's not due to heroic actions.
He's a tragic hero.
Well, you're half right. He's tragic anyway. Kind of. His dental plane's tragic.
But, his hairstyle's tragic. It's worse than mine.
Yeah. But, yeah, so I want to see from the campaign book, how it's set up, if it is a campaign I can actually attempt to run part of, because I do like the setting. I love the novels. I like several of the ideas in the setting. It's just that, again, once you read the novels, okay, now what?
I want to know how the races are going to play out. Are you going to be able to play Draconians? Are you going to be able to play Kinders? Are Kinders going to have the same stats that they've released recently where you have a pretty much bag of tricks all the time? Which I don't necessarily care for that. Kinders just need to be halflings that are immune to fear.
Oh, just wait, Chad. Wait till we get the gully dwarves.
What are gully dwarves?
Like normal dwarves, it's not quite as bright.
Oh.
There's a... Okay. Gully dwarves, like I said, they're similar to dwarves. They're just not overly bright. And in the books, I think narratively their main purpose was to show that the character Raistlin, who is nominally a good guy through the first 2/3 of the trilogy, kind of, maybe.
Kind of an a-hole, isn't he?
He's definitely an a-hole. But there's...
People, if you don't know what a-hole means, look it up.
I think he has good reason to be, but because that going super deep here, because of something to do with his magic powers, his eyes, the way they work is he can see what the effects of time will be on things and people. He can't turn it off. So the guy constantly sees that literally everything will eventually die and turn to dust, and I think that would sour anyone's disposition.
Will I be able to make a character with that ability is the question.
Well, it was a granted ability, so I don't see why you couldn't.
It'd be hard to work into a campaign, though.
Yeah, and so ultimately because of that, he does turn against the companions partway through.
Spoilers!
Yeah, spoilers for a book that came out back in the 80s. There's going to be a lot of those in the actual Dragonlance video we do.
I've not read the books yet, so spoilers.
So, anyway.
Also, I don't really care about spoilers. It was a warning for you folks.
So, he has a very, very bad disposition towards everyone. However, he has insights into a few of the characters that are surprising. One is a gentleman named Sturm Brightblade, who's a knight. And even though Raceland ridicules him a lot, it's clear that on some level he, I don't want to say appreciates, he respects that Sturm sticks to his oath as a knight. You know, he knows that if Sturm says he's going to do something, by God, he's going to do it.
Does Sturm have a wonderful mustache?
Sturm does have a wonderful mustache.
Because his name says he should have a wonderful mustache.
He's one of the Knights of Solamnia. I know I'm mispronouncing that. And they all are known for their beautiful mustaches. Like, that's a thing in the books.
Like, really good, bushy, combed out properly.
Yeah. Like, we're talking, like...
Look, the whole...
Probably not the handlebar, like, little curly ends, I wouldn't think. We're talking more like thick and broad and, you know, like that kind of thing.
Oh, one of those.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So,
I can't have facial hair at my job, people, so...
So Sturm, on the other hand, does not feel that way towards Raceland. He thinks he's an asshole who's going to betray them. So
yeah, you said the A word there.
That's fine.
The A-hole word. No, we're not. You're cussing in the middle of the video. We got to get away from that.
Well, I'll worry about that if we ever get monetized.
We'll worry about it now before we have a better chance of being monetized.
So,
right, folks?
This is why I select not for kids for all of our videos.
Oh. Wait, that's an option?
Yes, that is actually an option. I'll show you someday all the options.
YouTube might have thought this was for kids with the toys on the table.
Yeah. So, anyway...
Not toys, collectibles.
Anyway, they come across a gully dwarf named Bupu.
Bupu?
B-U-P-U. And all the other characters are just like, they just disregard her, and Raceland's like, I can't believe you guys. Like, you guys claim to be heroes, and this is like the lowest of the low, and you're just disregarding her. Like, am I really going to be the only one that actually tries to kind of stand up for her here? And it surprises a bunch of the other characters, because Raceland has a big chip on his shoulder, because he has a twin brother named Caramon. Caramon is like the polar opposite. Like
much better looking, very fit,
tall,
very strong.
big physical guy, you know.
Gets the girl.
Yes, girls, I believe. But Raceland always thought that, like, his advantage obviously is intelligence. That's what he had to fall back on because of his frail form. You find out Caramon's not the idiot that he kind of portrays himself as. He always did that to make his brother look better, which also shows that that Raceland had a brother he did not deserve.
Yeah.
So, and you find that out in the second trilogy. So, Bupu ends up actually, that whole encounter ends up being the one thing that saves their entire universe in the second trilogy. Because Raceland goes into the abyss to challenge Takhisis for all the marbles. And he wins. Claims her godhood, and then destroys the other deities, and ultimately destroys their world because he's the only thing left. And because of time travel shenanigans, Caramon winds up in that future. And the last thing he comes across before he goes and sees what Raceland has become is Bupu's dead body. And she's like trying to get to the castle where Raceland was. And so whenever he goes back and confronts Raceland before he fights Takhisis, Raceland uses his magic to look into Caramon's mind, sees that, and that's what makes him realize that his whole venture is foolhardy. He will win, but it'll be a Pyrrhic victory of galactic proportions. And so he tells his brother how to seal the portal to the abyss behind him, and goes to his death to fight Takhisis without the benefit of what he was going to do to her, just to keep her busy so she can't come through the portal. So, depending on how one looks at it, he realizes the error of his ways at the last moment and dies correcting them, which is probably why Paladine takes pity on him and doesn't let Takhisis just ravage his soul for all eternity, and instead Paladine claims him right as he dies. So, yeah. The second trilogy is excellent. The first trilogy is good. The second trilogy, that's good stuff.
Well, I think I'll know what I use my Audible thing for.
Yeah. So
depending on what my friends also suggest, what I would narrow it down to, like 6 or 7 different books.
So those are Gully Dwarves. I have no idea what they're going to do with them.
Make them a playable race.
Maybe. So I don't even know if they're going to show up because they might not. So, but it's going to be interesting to see where they go with all that. To see the new Draconians in a book finally, like in action, and just to see how they try to kind of update everything to 5th and try to portray another part of the war so that you're not involved in the big events.
Also, it's another setting for 5th edition.
Yeah.
Which is very important because so far it's mostly been...
It's been the
Forgotten Realms.
The Realms has been the base setting.
Eberron, a little bit in Eberron, and some Magic the Gathering stuff.
Yeah. So...
and the Strahd stuff.
Yes, Ravenloft.
Yes, Ravenloft.
Which has both the actual, just the Strahd part, and then all of Ravenloft in another book.
Which... More settings is good. It gives more choices, more variety.
Right. And speaking of, also, I don't think it's out yet, but it's about to come out, is the Spelljammer setting.
It is out.
It is out?
At least on D&D Beyond you can get it.
Okay, so then the books are out then. So yeah, it's D&D in space, with all kinds of wacky, zany, whatever.
Like a Mind Flayer that's a shopkeeper.
Yeah.
A beholder that runs an inn. That's actually in the books, people.
Yeah, if you see the little trailer that they released, there's I think it's a couple giant space hamsters. That's a thing, by the way.
Being ridden.
There's one of them who's reading a story to their kid, and it's all about the evil humans. And they're like, surely the humans aren't real. Oh no, they're out there, honey, somewhere. Then it kind of pans back, and you see like the giant beholder getting ready to attack the ship, and a bunch of Thry-Creens fighting over here, and all kinds of zaniness going on out in space. So it's interesting, and it's got a miniature set coming too.
It does.
So now the rest of the products are very light on information. We literally just have titles.
Well, what all do we have, Bobby?
Well, we have Keys from the Golden Vault.
It's a heist setup.
Yeah, it's a heist-centric book. So
I think it might end up being like... Was it Stormlight? Where it's an anthology of multiple adventures that are all heist-oriented.
Yeah, I get the impression that it's something like that, or it's like a how-to set up a heist adventure kind of thing. You know, it's or a combination of the two. You know,
probably a combination of the two.
Yeah, so seems to be what they're going for there. Bigby presents Glory of the Giants. It's a book about giants, written by old Mordekainen's friend Bigby.
Yeah.
Another little tidbit for those of you that don't know. Bigby and Melf, who some of the spells are named after, and I don't know if any of those have made it to 5th yet, but I think it's Nilok had spells back in 3rd edition. I think is one of these people. These were all characters from
Gary Gygax's campaign.
Yeah, Greyhawk, and they were friends with Mordekainen, who's like the big wizard there. I think I don't know a whole lot about the setting. It's Greyhawk. The world is Oerth, or just Earth. It's Oerth.
Oath.
The old Temple of Elemental Evil. The original module takes place there. So it used to be the setting back in, I believe, 3rd edition. Greyhawk was the main setting. You would never know it based on the number of books that came out for the Forgotten Realms, but the base setting, I believe, was supposed to be Greyhawk. So anyway, and hey, hopefully we'll get like a Return to Castle Greyhawk again, because that was a book in 3rd edition. So hopefully we'll get one of those at some point.
So the giant one, you think it's just going to be like a repository of giants? Like, here's all these giant variants, here information on giant society, maybe elaboration on Goliath society that's been missing in 5th edition?
I mean, if that's going to be anywhere, I would think it'd be in this book.
Yeah.
So that's the way they explained it was literally this is like the book about giants. So,
And if you didn't know, Goliaths are giant kin.
Right.
3.5, they were actually just called... Well, they were Goliaths, but they were also considered half-giants.
Yeah.
Even though there were also half-giants.
Yeah, half-giants are a thing.
Although would Goliaths be quarter-giants?
I don't know, but I know that half-giants are kind of a big thing in Dark Sun, if I recall correctly. But I could be mistaken. I could just be conflating the fact that the only half-giant miniature that existed for a long time in the old line was a Scion and from Dark Sun. So
maybe the giant book will introduce Dark Sun.
Maybe.
Or start to.
Maybe.
And give us psionics. Although if they were going to do that, I want a Mind Flayer book for it, not a giant book.
Yeah, Mind Flayers are far better on the psionic front. So, also, for those of you who have played the Lost Minds of Phandelver, or for those of you who haven't, also, they are going to expand that into an entire campaign, apparently. No details as to where that's going exactly.
Are they just expanding it, or are they putting stuff on after the module, or are they...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because literally we just have the title and what it
probably is. Going to give you rules for improving the town?
I mean, it could be any number of things.
When this comes out, we might have to restart your game.
Or I might have more information for the town.
Nah, restart the game.
Restart the game.
Yep. Level 1 characters again. No,
we'll use the Dungeon Crawl Classics rules if we're going to do that. So I mean... the other is the Book of Many Things. And this is what they said. This is supposed to be a book of new player and DM options, which I have to wonder about.
The way they talked about it made it seem it's somehow related to the Deck of Many Things as well.
Yeah, that's where it says it's where they took inspiration. So
maybe there's rules for building your own castle, because one of the cards in the Deck of Many Things says you get a castle.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe it tells you how to fight death.
Could be anything, but to me, the more important part is what's going to be in here, considering this is going to come out in 2023.
Yeah.
And presumably they told us these in order, which if that's the case, this is going to be towards the end of the year, and in 2024 is when we're supposed to be getting the D&D 1 stuff. Is this a potential preview of that? Is this ideas that they're going to further elaborate on there?
What if they gave it to us in reverse order?
Well, I hope they didn't, because the last thing they did actually say is the last thing. So
maybe they put it out in no particular order.
Well, that's entirely possible. But my overarching point here is, if you know you've got essentially a revision to the game coming, what are you doing? What's this book going to do? Because are there going to be things in this book that man, this stuff's awesome, and then
a month later,
here's D&D 1, yeah, we decided to drop all that. People will be upset if they spent money on that. And then the final product, which we can say a little bit about, because we have actually heard of it before, is Planescape.
I am not entirely up to date on what Planescape is.
This is going to be a return to the city of Sigil, which is like the city at the center of the multiverse. So Planescape is like a means to get to the other planes, essentially.
I thought that's what Forgotten Realms was supposed to be.
Forgotten Realms is connected to a bunch of other realms, which is why it's called Forgotten Realms, because portals all over the place to realms that are now forgotten, including Earth. But yeah, if I understand Planescape correctly, it's basically it's the means to access every place else. So it's kind of like the crossroads of reality kind of deal, I think. This is tidbits I've picked up here and there. It's ruled by the Lady of Pain, if I remember correctly.
That's not a foreboding name at all.
There's a thing that prevents deities from getting in there. The one exception is Vecna figured out a way in at one point.
Because he's a slippery son of a gun.
And so it's a lot of interplanar stuff. Okay? So kind of like with Spelljammer, there's a lot of the zany, a lot of the wacky, a lot of a lot of factions are dedicated to like specific aspects of the alignment wheel. Like you've got the people that enforce like absolute law and the devotees of chaos and things like that going on. But yeah, it's kind of like an everything in the kitchen sink kind of deal, at least as I understand it. But that's supposed to come out towards the end of next year. So that, I'm assuming, means that is another campaign book, because it's another campaign setting. And similar to Spelljammer, it has the means to connect to the other settings already built into it. So,
yeah.
So, that is what is coming out between now and the end of next year, so far as they've announced anyway.
So far, there'll probably be other smaller books in there.
Yeah, I would expect that there'd be some other stuff in there. I mean, at the very least, they'll be beta testing the next version, D&D 1.
The next D&D.
Yeah. So, and, I'm sure there'll be all kinds of other products. Like we already know of the next 3 miniature sets, I believe.
There's a Spelljammer one.
There's Spelljammer.
Dragonlance.
Yeah, it's Spelljammer, Dragonlance, and for the life of me, can't think of the third one, but there is one already announced.
You're the one that preps for all this stuff, Bobby. Why
Yeah,
don't you have
I
the name
know.
of it?
I didn't put those on my notes. I was too busy taking notes on the video because I didn't think I was going to mention this. So, yeah, because the Mordekainen set just came out, and well, actually, no. I think the only ones we know about are Dragonlance and Spelljammer. Because Spelljammer is supposed to be out here in a few months, something like November, and Dragonlance, I think, March. Which, I hope that's the timeline, because I'm going to want most of the figures in the Dragonlance set, I'm sure. Because even if I never run the campaign, love the setting, stuff looks cool.
There's a problem with that, Bobby.
What's that?
If the Dragonlance one doesn't come out for the end of the year, it's going to interfere with your saving money for conventions.
No, because I buy everything through one guy. It's like a one and done.
Oh.
Yeah.
But you're going to be going in there and hitting one of everything, please.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I'm sure there's things
At the very least, one of everything.
I'm sure there's things I won't want. Okay. This is a Draconian Dreadnought.
Yes.
I have 2 of them. If there's more in the set, I don't need more.
Why would they be in that set when they're in this set?
Because they'd be from one of the different colored dragons.
Well, if you need the ones for the different colored dragons, they look different.
Yeah, it just depends on what I plan on using. I really only want the ones that are definitely on Team Evil.
Why not the ones on Team Good?
Team Good's got knights and heroes and Raistlin and Sturm and Tanis Half-Elven and Caramon and Gold Moon, Tika with her frying pan. I mean, it's a weapon of choice. She's a cook. And,
what was the
Castlehoff Burfoot?
Yeah, him.
Yeah. And there's a guy I'm forgetting that's with Goldboom. Can't think of his name. Come to me eventually. Oh, and Flint Fireforge. The old dwarf who kind of leads them all. Man. Poor Flint.
Okay.
It's another thing. Those books really humanize those characters. Flint dies of a heart attack.
Spoilers!
Not like some big noble death in combat. Literally he's going up a hill and yeah.
Spoilers, Bobby.
Yeah.
For the audience.
Yeah.
You gotta give these warnings beforehand.
We did, back towards the beginning of the video.
After you gave a spoiler.
Well, sorry folks. Want some more spoilers?
Next, you're going to tell me Caramon dies of old age.
No, I think he has a stroke or something. I'm pretty sure if I recall correctly, he just comes out of a doorway and is laughing about something and just has a stroke and falls down a flight of stairs or something. Something like that. Something like that. It's been a while since I read the books.
Does anyone actually die a violent death, or do they all just die from natural causes?
Oh, no. Raistlin dies fighting Takhisis. Tasselhoff gets crushed by the god of chaos. I don't remember how Tanis died. Gold Moon, I think, died of old age. I could be wrong on her. Because I know Takhisis planned on coming back into a mortal form by inhabiting her body. Takhisis dies a violent death. She gets killed by Mina. No, not Mina. Someone else. But she gets killed because Paladine chooses to become mortal. And because of the whole balance thing, it makes Takhisis mortal at the same time. And she gets stabbed, I think, right through the heart.
Folks, if you know how any other characters in these book series die, tell us in the comments. But just let other people know that it's spoilers.
Yeah. Let's see. Cyan Bloodbane, who's one of the giant green... He's a giant green dragon. He gets killed by Mina, if I remember right.
Alright,
Sturm, he dies.
Of...
stabbing.
By...
He is killed by Kitiara, who he has a kid with, but she is the sister to Raistlin and Caramon. She's a mercenary. She's one of the Dragon High Lords. She kills him. He goes down swinging, and he knows who it is that kills him at the end, like she does. And then their kid grows up later on to become a knight, if I remember right.
Cool.
So yeah.
So, out of all these upcoming books, which one are you most interested in? The most. Not just like what you think has the most potential.
Well, I mean, are we including Dragonlance and all that?
No, because that's going to be your answer if we do.
Are we talking the pure speculation ones?
Yes, the pure speculation ones. What are you most looking forward to?
The pure speculation ones... Probably a toss-up between the Phandelver campaign and the Planescape, to be honest. Just because I want to know what they're going to do with the Phandelver campaign.
For me, it's the Book of Many Things. I like options. They say it's a player and GM option book.
Yeah.
And then it's the Phandelver campaign. I want to know what they're doing to make it, because I tried running it before and that game sort of petered out.
Yeah, our current campaign
is on hiatus.
It's on hiatus, but
long-term hiatus at the moment.
Yeah, but I think we're going to be going back to action soon on that.
Good.
But it was inspired by elements of the Phandelver campaign. So, like I said, I'm just curious to see how you take what's supposed to be the beginning, like one of the beginner modules, and actually transform it into a campaign, because it reminds me of one of the years at Gen Con where I went to the Candlekeep Presents thing. I don't want to call it a seminar because it's not. It's a website called Candlekeep, based off of a library in the Forgotten Realms called Candlekeep, and they put together a little show in one of the meeting rooms, and they get people that work for or have worked on the Forgotten Realms, like our novel writers. Ed Greenwood was there one year. And just the stories these people tell, especially from the old days of TSR, it's no wonder that company went belly up. There was some gems that I wish I had recorded or written better notes or something. But one of the gentlemen there, who unfortunately I don't remember who it was off the top of my head, had taken one of the modules, which was...
Sun Citadel, maybe?
No. This is like a way older module. That was Beneath Nethril, Under Nethril, or Under the Sands of the Anarok. Something like that. I'm going to look it up and put it in the comments. But anyway, he had played it out with his kids so much that he had expanded it to 4 or 5 times the size that the original was, with more NPCs he had made up, dungeons and everything. And he had told Wizards of the Coast about it, like, hey, I've got this material here. Like, if you guys will publish it, you can have it. And, like, they never came to any kind of agreement. And everyone considers this a tremendous travesty that heard about this. Because we were all just like, good Lord, man. Like, yeah, I'd love to see that. Like, a campaign that's been refined over decades.
Yeah.
It's been added to like that. I mean, that's got to be crazy. And, yeah, I have no idea why they didn't want that. It might be up under the, not fan fiction, what do you call it, the homebrew stuff in D&D Beyond somewhere. But yeah, I will try to find the name of that and put that down in the comments so that I'm not just leaving you guys hanging. Not that that's going to help you, because you're not going to be able to find the bigger one, because it probably doesn't exist out there anywhere. But anyway.
I mean, we could